Welcome to the Forensic Cop Podcast.
So, France is out of the Euros. Mbappe missed a penalty. And you wanted to talk to me about Mbappe. So, I'm really curious to see what you have to say about him.
So, I mean, this is not the main point, but he did not have a great Euro. And I'm not even talking about the missed penalty shot. He wasn't really spectacular. He had some decent flashes, but I actually thought he was a bit underwhelming.
He looked like a 22-year-old playing for France in his first major tournament. Right?
Was this really his first major tournament? He didn't play 2 years ago?
No, it wasn't, but that's my point, right? He looked like a kid playing at the highest level for the first time.
Yeah.
Right? You could see the talent, you could see the pace, the skill, but the composure was not there. It looked like the experience was not there, but he clearly is experienced. So something was off with him, and he just had a bad tournament. But he's only 22, right?
So I'm wondering if what's off with him is, like, again, to your point, he's 22. Can he, all the speculation about his future, that's got to be playing with him. Like, he's not a veteran. He's in his head, he's got to be thinking, he's looking for a big payday. He doesn't know where to go, what to do. Like, I don't know, maybe that was part of it. And I'm not even talking about the missed penalty shot, which, by the way, he looked like he was going to miss walking up.
Oh, totally. I think the whole world knew he was going to miss. It was written in the stars that he was going to miss that penalty.
So, I mean, now that he's out of the tournament, I've actually, and now you can actually start talking about real, where is he going? Now negotiations can really happen, a bit more in force than while the tournament's going on. I actually started thinking about, obviously we'd love him to end up at Liverpool, but I'm actually thinking more and more about it. I don't see that he has many other places to go right now. And I know that sounds super weird, but I always thought him coming to Liverpool was a super long shot, but I'm actually starting to think if I had to pick a favorite, it would have to be Liverpool at this point.
So, not that I disagree with you, but what would favor Liverpool over Man City, say?
Okay, so this is a show your work exercise. So I look at it like I'm just looking at, we can narrow down the clubs that he can go to. So, obviously in Italy, it's Juventus. They don't have the money. They're all automatically out. In Germany, it's only Bayern Munich. I can't imagine them throwing that much money at him. That's not how they operate, so they're out. In Spain, it's Real and Barcelona. And in the Premier League, realistically, it's Man City and Liverpool. Are we agreed? There's really only 4 teams he could go to.
Why not Chelsea? Again, I'm just playing devil's advocate.
I guess he could go, but they'd have to sell their 600 young forwards. Like, that would be just a...
I know, but do they? Would they have to sell them?
To afford them, probably.
And also, to be fair, Chelsea has a remarkable way of recouping money on their players.
Remind me who's coaching Chelsea? And where did he coach before?
Oh, speaking of which, so what was their relationship like back there?
Couldn't have been that good if he didn't want to resign.
Interesting.
So the way I kind of look at it is,
okay.
Mbappe. So let's be clear. PSG is run by oil money. It is unlimited. They don't even care about playing by financial fair play. They would have backed up, forget the Brinks truck, they would have backed up buses load of money. The fact that he hasn't signed there, and I'm sure they've thrown every number at him, means I actually am not sure he wants to stay. Either he wants a new challenge, he doesn't like the way the team is going, he doesn't like the coaching. Under the previous coach, he didn't sign. News coming out, he's not interested in signing right now for the new guy. They're both great coaches, but he just doesn't seem to want to sign. And frankly, I'm super hopeful there was something lost in translation. But the little speech about the owner that, he belongs to PSG and he's not going anywhere, he will sign money, like, ooh, that sounded like crazy possessive girlfriend stuff. I'm going with crazy possessive girlfriend as opposed to like kind of slave ownership talk, because I'm hoping it was very like taken out of context or lost in translation. but I get the feeling he doesn't want to be there. He hasn't signed and he had every opportunity to. Like, do you get any feeling like he wants to be there?
No. I think that Mbappe and his close-knit set of advisors, family, whatever, and his own career trajectory, I think he has his next 10 years clearly mapped out, ideally, and that ultimately involves ending up at Real Madrid. But at 22, I think he's wise enough to know that he can afford to detour somewhere else, a step above the French league, and perhaps on par with the Spanish league. So the Premier League would be the obvious choice. And to your point, there's really just three teams that are realistically in the running, and I'll include Manchester United, but it's not going to happen because they have their own issues there. But so that leaves Liverpool, Man City, and we all know that he is looking forward, or he would like the opportunity to work under Klopp, and so it is a match made in heaven. The only stumbling block is the financial aspect, right?
So speaking of financial, let's start knocking clubs off. So Barcelona, not even remotely close. They're $1 billion in debt. Not going to happen. The next one is Real Madrid that you said he does want to end up at. Can it be now? Not really, because Barcelona is $1 billion in debt and everybody's like, oh my God, Barcelona is like 70% of the way there.
You mean Real?
Real is like $600-700 million in debt too.
What does that mean though? Because they're still going to sign players.
But
right?
But signing players is one thing. Signing a guy who is going to cost a lot of money, I don't think they can do right now.
Okay.
Like, I think they need 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, something of some financial tightening to be able to get back into the big signing game.
Like the Super League.
Like, yeah. So again, why did the Super League, appealing to them? They need the money right now.
Right.
And I mean, frankly, even look at something as simple as Genie. Genie was there on a free. So you can sign him to a big contract, like 3 years, 4 years, or whatever he wants at whatever weekly rate. It's still a bargain simply because you didn't have to pay any transfer fee for a guy his quality. They kept hemming and hawing and trying to negotiate price with him to the level where PSG just came in, offered him a ton of money, and he said, sure. So he wanted to go there and they wouldn't even give him the money to do it. To me, that means their money situation is not as good as it has been in the past. Because in the past, they throw money at a guy like Genie, no problem, right? Like, he wants to go there, we'll take him, come on. So I look at them and I say, I don't think the money right now. In 3-4 years, yes, not right now, which brings us back to the Premier League. Legitimately, Man City. I don't know, if you were Mbappe, would you want to go to Man City?
No, the only reason why he may have looked at that is if Liverpool hadn't qualified for the Champions League. So since we did, it now immediately puts us in the frame. But again, my question is, for the past year or a couple of years, you've been insisting that Liverpool doesn't have the money to spend on players like Mbappe. So I'm interested to hear what has changed or why you see that differently now.
So before I get to that, let me just ask, do you think what's happened to Raheem Sterling plays in his head, or not at all?
No, I don't think so. I don't think players look at other players and think, oh, okay, that might happen to me. I mean, I think he has enough confidence in himself, and if he's not interested in going to Man City for footballing reasons, then it will have nothing to do with any existing footballers there, right? So he probably just thinks, yeah, perhaps my style and Pep's don't quite blend together, or perhaps I want to play for a team with a little bit more history and tradition. Ironically, PSG doesn't have much of that, but anyway.
So coming back to Liverpool, why would it work after I've said forever and a day that they don't have money? So the answer is they actually didn't have money. And it all comes back to the I'm not going to call it a sale of 10% of the team. Really what it was an investment in the team. So the money that was paid for the 10% that Liverpool gave up was not taking 10% away from John Henry. It was actually buying and putting the money into the team. So the team is actually now flush with cash. Part of that, of course, is going to offset the COVID losses. But you're talking maybe a couple $100 million there, and they got a whole lot more. So the other side is, I mean, if you look at why the sale was made, Liverpool is valued at $2 to $3 billion right now. John Henry has given interviews and he's talked about it, and he's basically said the expectation is for the team to gain value till they're about $5 billion. So selling 10% of it is actually a really smart play if you can get them up to that level, right? I mean, if they go from 2 to 3 billion to 5 billion, sure, giving up 10% is a brilliant move. So from that point of view, it makes a lot of sense that they would have sold a piece of the team. So now we have a case where Liverpool have money. What are they going to do with the money? And we come back to, what did we talk about? I don't know, a year ago when Liverpool signed the deal with Nike. It's all about how many jerseys they can push out the door. And I mean, no matter how you look at it, Mbappe sells jerseys.
Right.
Mbappe has a great name. He's exciting. If you can get more people to buy. So I think what it is Liverpool gets 30% of jersey sales, something like that.
I think so.
So, if you're talking, you sell 1 million jerseys, and these jerseys are not cheap, you're making back a whole lot of your money every year. And frankly, Mbappe is going to push a lot more jerseys than Hendo right now.
Yeah, and he has his own. So I think he's personally sponsored by Nike too, right?
He is.
So there's all types of other permutations and percentages that are at play here. So it's a win-win for Liverpool, Nike, and Mbappe.
Yeah, and the other thing that we don't know about is, was there any conversation between Nike and Liverpool about, hey, you know what, we're going to sign this deal, but we want you to bring in a big player.
Right.
I mean, if you're going to sign a deal where you don't take 80 million up front, you only take 30 or 40 or whatever they took, you need to have some sort of long-term plan to bump up those jersey sales, right? That's the only way the deal makes sense. So in my mind, here's how I look at it. They make a deal for jerseys where you lose 30 to 50 million up front from what you could have gotten. That means you have to make it back somewhere else, and they've done nothing to do that yet. Then you get a huge influx of cash, which is frankly now just sitting on the books, and you've got a guy like Mbappe who frankly doesn't seem to want to sign for PSG. It just makes too much sense for me at this point that there wouldn't be a really strong push to get him. And frankly, I don't see how, if he's not going to re-sign for PSG, they have to sell him. They can't let him get to January and sign on a free.
Okay, so how about the wages? Because I hear some very astronomical numbers. So when Haaland was doing his little tour of all the clubs and pushing himself out there, I was hearing stupid numbers like 600,000 pounds a week. And so I'm curious, do you know how much Mbappe is currently making and how that compares to our players?
Ooh, I actually don't know, but I can find out.
I've heard the number 400.
He makes 18 million euro a year.
Okay, so divide that by
which is a lot. So I think he would be the top earner on Liverpool. I think that's clear. But, maybe that's something we can do. Maybe we can break the system that we have right now to bring him in. I mean, if there was a guy to break the salary system, wouldn't he be the guy?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. But I've heard, and again, I haven't seen any of this, right? But I've heard it mentioned that players like Salah and perhaps Van Dijk have clauses in their contracts that state that they will be the highest earners. So if you offer another player a certain amount, then you have to immediately negotiate their contracts.
I mean, that's possible.
But I'm not sure about Van Dijk, but I've heard that. So that could also play into the reasons why they're hesitating on offering Salah a new contract, or perhaps they're trying to remove that clause, or trying to figure all that out.
I mean, you know what I would say? They just gave Van Dijk a new contract, right? Like how long ago? Very recently.
Mm-hmm.
I gotta believe they had in their mind that they were going to run out and try to get a superstar. Again, I think the progression of this where you change the whole way your jerseys are sold and how you make money off them. You go out, you get a big investment from someone to potentially get new players. Like I don't think it's just about we're going to continue getting into Champions League. I think this has to be about we got to put a name on the back of our jersey that's just going to sell, through the roof.
Right.
And that's just the feeling that I get. And the other thing is, I think you said it, is Klopp. I think Mbappe is a very good player. From what I've seen, I mean this World Cup or this Euro notwithstanding, he's a top player, but he's definitely got room to grow. He needs a coach to help him grow. And I think Klopp is that guy. And I don't know if I've seen a whole ton of growth for him in the last year or two at PSG.
Definitely not. So, okay. So we've talked about the financial aspect. Now, how about the footballing aspect? What does that do to our current team?
I mean, lack of a better way of putting it, Mane's got to go. I mean, they share the same spot. And frankly, I think, Mane is similar in a lot of ways to Mbappe, but just nowhere near as, explosive and no, not the upside that Mbappe brings. I mean, I don't know. Would you keep Mane?
I would keep them all if they're willing to stay in and we don't have to sell them to recoup.
Well, but don't forget, you still need to keep Jota happy.
Oh yeah, no, but he knows. He already knows his place. So he knows his age, and he knows that it's just a matter of time before at least two of the three will be completely phased out, right? So I'm sure he'll be patient. I don't see him. In fact, I don't want him to be a starter because, as good as he is, I think we can do better in terms of a starting position. He's not quite there yet, but maybe in a season he will be. Yeah. So footballing wise, do you think that we would have to shift any of Mane or Salah in order to accommodate Mbappe for financial reasons first, and then we can talk about football?
So financial reasons, with the influx of money from the 10% investment, no. Okay. But I think we would need to sell for financial fair play. Because
that's still a thing, though?
Honestly, I don't even know. I'm looking at the financials that are being put out by these teams, and just oh my god, I just don't believe it.
Yeah, I mean, if Man City is planning to spend which I think is fake news, but if they're planning to spend £200 million on Grealish and Kane, then we should be able to spend whatever we want to, or not.
Yeah, again, I have looked at their financials, and I can tell you, I don't even need to look at anything beyond them to know there's lies there. Any accountant worth his salt would look at that and be like, yeah, I can tell you all of this stuff that you've under expensed. No question. So I mean, to your point, I don't know if financial fair play is a thing anymore. I mean, the person who leaked the Man City documents to the newspaper, you don't leak documents if the club hasn't done something wrong. Right. There's no I'm going to leak this document to show how nice the club is. That's not the point. So obviously they did something wrong, and frankly, they didn't get punished for it. So, why even bother pretending? Unfortunately, only the Wolves got punished, right? That's kind of a joke. But anyway, so I mean, I think he'd have to go. His salary isn't that high, though. He's not one of the top earners. I think he earns well, Mane, but I don't think he's a top earner. But I think he would have to go just from a transfer fee
how much
point
would
of
we
view.
Get for him?
Honestly,
one, given his recent form, number two, the pandemic realities.
Do you think we could even get 50 for him?
See, that's what I was thinking. That's probably the highest we can even hope for. who would pay 50? That's the thing. Nobody outside of England, France, or Germany.
I was thinking Germany.
Bayern.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But would they want him?
But I don't think they need him. I mean, they have enough attacking talent.
They really do. I mean, if
PSG
Dortmund,
would make the most sense.
Well, look, I mean, if PSG turned around and said, give us Mane and some money for Mbappe, I think the money's gone before the phone is put down. Like, come on, if they'll take Sadio, so say they charge us 150 and they give us 50 for Mane. So we're paying 100 plus Mane for Mbappe. You do that deal, 7 days a week and twice on Sunday. Right? Like, wouldn't you do that in a heartbeat?
Yeah.
Because also don't forget, in 3 or 4 years, whenever, Mbappe has decided he's ready to move on, he wants to go to Real or Barcelona, the pandemic will be over. We'll be back to financial insanity. And he'll only be 25 or 26. We'll be able to sell him for way more than 150. No, yeah. You don't. Yes or no?
No. I mean, after what's happened this past year, I have a hard time looking that far out and assuming
Yeah, it's true. Who knows what's going to happen in 4 or 5 years?
That's where my mind was going. But
like, what about?
I understand what you mean. I mean, he's a clear investment at that age. It's a no-brainer.
Yeah. So I know you said that players don't look at other players. So as an example, he wouldn't look at what happened in Man City. But if, say, he was looking at Liverpool, would he look at a guy like Alexander-Arnold or even Curtis Jones and be like, you know what? These guys do bring young guys along well. Would he think that?
I think he'd be looking more at Mane, Salah, right?
To say they unlock these guys' true potential.
Yeah, because they came in when they were, Mane came in at 23, Salah I think was 24-ish. And I mean, they just turned into that. That's one thing Liverpool has historically been able to do. We create superstars. Somehow, players come to our club and they become world class. And then when they leave, they lose that again. There's just something about playing for Liverpool that turns you into a genuine star.
Sorry, what was that about Coutinho?
Yeah.
Sorry, I couldn't resist.
That's exactly who I was thinking. Now, I mean, he's already a star. That's the only thing I would say. However, his game still needs to be polished. So he already has the name. I can't think of any other player that we've bought at that age that was already seen as being top 5 in the world.
Yeah, I gotta say, I don't think we've ever gone and gotten a guy at the top or in the top 5 or top 10 in the world. That's not really what we do. Like, even if you look at Van Dijk, I mean, Van Dijk was clearly a stud on defense, but nobody was talking about him as the runaway top defender in the world.
Yeah, exactly. It was still seen as potential at that.
Well, I mean, wouldn't that be an even better example for Mbappe? We went out and got a guy who, frankly, was great, but just great. That's what he was. And we turned him into the ultimate top of the food chain guy. I mean, again, right? So as an example, take a look at who we're talking about. You look at a team like Man City or Chelsea. Have they done that? Can you think of guys on their team that went there when they were younger and really exploded?
Well, some would argue Sterling or Silva, but I wouldn't necessarily argue for them.
Well, I mean, the other thing I would say about Chelsea is they went out and got a whole bunch of young, really good attackers. And frankly, all of them have to some degree disappointed.
Yeah. The other thing about Liverpool too is we have proven that we can compete for the Champions League. Not just under Klopp, but just in general, right? So in the past 15 years, we've reached 4 Champions League finals. I mean, that's pretty impressive, right?
It is. And I mean, if you want to win one, you can't go to Man City. I think that's been proven.
Right, exactly.
I'm just taking shots right and left. I'm loving it. This is what the off season does. My stress has gone down and now I can actually enjoy the game.
Exactly. So,
I mean, look, at the end of the day, is it a gimme that he's going to come? No, I suspect that that PSG is going to put the full court press. They're going to offer more and more money, but it very much feels from kind of what's happened that I just think Mbappe is looking at this and saying, I've done everything I can at PSG, and if I want my name to blow up, it's got to be somewhere outside of the French league. And
yeah, he just wants a higher profile, right?
And at the moment, there's no higher profile than EPL.
Exactly. I think every player would wish to be able to play in the EPL at some point in their careers, given the exposure that it has and the tradition.
Well, I would say the exposure right now, I mean, you look at a guy like Messi, and he played in Spain, and he always wanted to play in Spain. But that, I think, was at a time before the EPL had really exploded the way it has now. I mean, in terms of looking at TV revenue and international audiences, the EPL is far away getting more viewership and more money than the Spanish league or the German league or anybody else. And that speaks a lot to, broadcasters are not paying silly money. They're paying money for what's being watched. And it's clearly the EPL being watched. So, I mean, frankly, if I was an advisor to Mbappe, I'd even say, don't go to Real or Barcelona. They won't give you the exposure you want. Are they big clubs? Sure. Do they have lots of followers? Sure. But you're not going to get the same viewership going into those clubs. I think the EPL is where it's at right now.
Yeah, and it'll be fascinating to see where Haaland ends up, because his advisors are probably telling him the exact same thing, and his game is well suited for the EPL. So it's too bad that if we get Mbappe, then someone else will get Haaland.
I don't know. I've watched Haaland, and I'm not super sold on the guy. I mean, he's a good finisher, but you'd think for a guy that tall, he'd be able to head a bit better. He doesn't have many headed goals.
Again, he has room to improve, right?
I don't know. We said that about Joe Gomez, and he hasn't learned to head a ball.
No, but it's different. I mean, Joe Gomez is actually afraid of the ball.
He really is.
I think Haaland probably just doesn't spend enough time heading the ball because he's really good with his feet.
And that's why we shouldn't be selling Nat Phillips, because Nat Phillips will teach everyone to not be afraid of the ball.
Yeah.
Just be afraid of him, not the ball. The ball's never going to hurt you, but Nat Phillips might in the air. So, I mean, if I told you right now, the only change, okay, so we got Konate, that's done. The only other change we make this summer is we sell Mane and we get Mbappe. Would you be okay with that?
Yeah.
I mean, knowing we probably could use someone in the midfield.
We could use someone in the midfield, or we could just hope that all of our midfielders don't get injured, right?
And keep in mind that we will be selling Shaq, and we will be selling Phillips, and we will be selling, a variety of guys.
Yeah. If we get Mbappe, and even if we have to lose Mane, I'm okay with our midfield. I don't want to see. Well, I would like Grujic to be given a chance. So I'm okay selling Shaq. I'm okay selling Wilson. I'm even okay sending Harvey Elliott on loan for another season.
Oh, no. He can't go on loan.
If we get Mbappe?
He's gotta be given a chance. He's proven it. I think if you send him again, you might turn him off. That would be my thing. I think a loan still makes sense, but I think he's earned the right to get a shot. And he should only be sent on loan if he says, look, I want to go on loan. Otherwise, I think you have to give him his shot. The other one that I was just thinking is we have another forward. He's a forward in my mind, is Ox, because he did not look good in the midfield last year, but he actually seemed to spark up a bit in the midfield. In the forward.
Yeah, but would we need another? Well, actually, sorry. You asked me the question if I'd be happy with that. I think we need a striker.
Because Firmino is not flicking on properly anymore. What's up with that?
And clearly Mbappe is not a striker either. So, yeah.
Hey man, at least you know what? I criticize Salah and his poor penalty shots all day long. I will say, I mean, they're not good. You look at Cristiano Ronaldo. He could tell the keeper where it's going, and it doesn't matter. It's got power, and it's perfectly placed. Salah does stuff that I totally disagree with, but at least he scores. So, I mean, say what you will, at least Salah's scoring, and Mbappe, like, I don't know what that was. I feel bad for the guy.
So I would, if we had to sell one of the front three, I would. In fact, I wouldn't even sell any of them. I would keep them all and then put Salah in the middle, put Firmino on the bench, and then move Mane to the right.
No, put Firmino in the stands. I don't want him on the bench anymore, man. I'm done with him. He's just not shown much. Anyway, sorry.
Yeah, and then just have them interchange, right? And then you also have Jota as well.
What do you think of Ox as a facilitator in the middle?
The few times that I've seen him in that position, I think, again, we've talked about Klopp's overcoaching. I think he was trying too hard to play to instruction that the game just passed him by. So yeah, he could possibly do it if he's allowed a few games back to back in that position. But can we really afford that? I don't know.
Well, I guess the other one is if you don't sell Shaq, he apparently can score. I think he's shown that with the Swiss. You know what? I actually wouldn't mind giving him a run of like 2 or 3 games as the attacker and see what he does. Shaq, like in the center. I mean, the guy has great vision, will always make, really intelligent passes, and is a threat enough to shoot that he has to be covered. Unlike Firmino, who flicks and gives it away and will never take a shot on net. Like at least Shaq keeps defenses honest.
So Klopp will have to do something because we've lost Genie and Firmino is probably not a starter anymore. So the players that make us tick.
I was gonna say that's the whole engine. The whole team's gonna fall apart. What's left?
Exactly. So he'll have to change something. Whether we stick with 4-3-3 or have 2 holding versus 1 holding, I don't know, but he'll have to change something. So you have Thiago and you have Fabinho in the middle. Henderson, if he's fit, then you have
Thiago, Fab, and Hendo in the middle. I mean, is just delightful. I would love to have that game in and game out. What about Curtis Jones in the center position?
Yes, actually, I keep forgetting about him.
Because you know what? I think, if I'm not mistaken, he actually came up as a striker, didn't he?
Yeah, he came up. Yeah. Well, not a number 9, but he came up as a forward.
So I don't know. Maybe there's something there for him too, instead of the converting him into a midfielder. Just an idea.
I see him turning into someone like Jack Grealish.
Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah, I mean he has everything. So hopefully he doesn't.
So back to the question: if we don't get anybody else, we only get Mbappe.
I'm still okay.
And take or give Mane. I don't think that's the deal breaker. Are you still okay with the summer?
I'm still okay because I mean, if we get Mbappe, we've won the lottery. So if we have to just work with what we have, that's fine. I think simply having him around will raise the others' game, in particular the forwards, to start putting the ball in the net. Right?
Well, you know what? I mean, if you're talking Salah, Mane, and Firmino, and behind them are Mbappe, Jota, and Elliott, I'm terrified to lose my job. Like straight terrified.
Exactly.
Because any of the 3 of your backups could go on a streak like Jota started with us, right? Before he got injured. I mean, you couldn't deny him a spot by that point. If he hadn't gotten injured, he would have displaced one of the front 3. There was no getting around it. So you got to know Jota has the ability to displace you. Mbappe obviously
has
displaced you. Yes, it's in the past. And I would be worried about Elliott, frankly, because if he is on that line with, a guy like, if you're looking at a front line, like, instead of Salah, you put him in there and you've got Mbappe on the other side, like defenses are going to have to shade over to Mbappe and Elliott's going to have a run of the place. So I could very much, and he finishes too, which is something Salah's had a harder time. So it would be fun to enter the season with legitimately 6 forwards.
Yeah.
Okay, I mean 5 because Firmino's not legitimately a forward anymore, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, I'll be more than okay with that. So to answer your question, yes, I'd be fine with that. I would still have loved another midfielder and striker, but in order to get Mbappe, I'm okay with that.
And I think the bottom line to it is, if we do turn around and get Mbappe, I think it changes the Liverpool profile, frankly, from a historic top tier English team to a world renowned, exciting new fan bases everywhere team.
Right.
And to me, that's really the allure of Mbappe, and that's why I think Liverpool have set themselves up in this position. They might not say it, but I suspect there has always been some plan to get him to come ever since when he was, before he went to PSG. They wanted him then. I think they saw where he was going to go. I think they still want him. They've just realized we'll have to pay a lot more, but the plan remains. And that would be my guess. So again, I know it's crazy. And as a Liverpool fan, we always think we don't buy superstars, we make them. But I actually think this may be the first time in a long time that I can recall that we're going to go out there, get a top-notch player, and hopefully Klopp can turn him into something even more.
For more stories, analysis, and articles, go to theforensiccop.com website.